And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, of course, to another rendition of the Leadership Series here at the Los Angeles Tribune. And I'm very excited because today we have a few folks here with us, a couple folks rather, that are truly living legends in the personal development and leadership space. First of all, I want to give thanks to Rex Sikes, who really has sort of become a regular here with us. He's, of course, the author of this book that you see right here, Life on Your Terms, a book that, in my opinion, is one of the greatest books in personal and professional development. But not only that, this week we have truly another living legend. I'm talking about Don Green, the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, a man that is truly doing the work to preserve the work, preserve the legacy. On a personal note, Don, I want to thank you because just about an hour ago, I checked my mail and I got this personalized card from you. So I want to thank you for sending this to me. That did my heart glad. And I also want to thank you for sending me the original copy of the 1937 Think and Grow Rich book. So it's very apropos and timely that the show was done shortly after I was able to receive these, so we can go ahead and give you your proper thanks and kudos. And I'm just excited because the work that Don Green has done to preserve the work of Napoleon Hill is truly uncanny. So on behalf of all of the leaders at the Los Angeles Tribune, we want to thank you, Don Green, for everything that you're doing with the Napoleon Hill Foundation to do very important work. And Rex, I want to start off with you. How important is the work of the Napoleon Hill Foundation and the work that Don Green does for the industry at large and for leadership all around the world? Rex, the floor is yours.
Well, I think it's unparalleled in the entire world, because I think the work of Napoleon Hill has been such to have changed most of modern history, from the time that his books first came out and to whatever reception to today, when millions of people have read his works and have been affected and have transformed their lives and their history. They have a legacy as a result of applying the principles that Napoleon Hill put into practice. Now, that said, I want to show you a book, and that's this book. This is a book that's Don Green, my mentor. It is my mentor, Napoleon Hill, Timeless Principles to Take Your Success to the Next Level, by Don Green, CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. I got this book, and it is chock full of not only Napoleon Hill tips and principles, but Don's tips and principles woven into it, in just an incredibly magical way. So this is definitely a book that everybody wants to read as well. So with that, I just am so pleased that Don does the work that he does, and he furthers the work at Napoleon Hill, because I couldn't think of a better guy. This guy is so generous and so giving and so wonderful with his time and his resources that we are blessed to have him here, but the world is blessed to have him be the CEO and carry on Napoleon Hill's work, as well as important works like his own books. Absolutely. And really, he's a steward as much as he is a CEO in preserving the legacy. And with that, Don, I want to ask you to go ahead and start speaking about how do you envision your role as the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation? Do you really see it as a stewardship? Do you see it as though you're preserving the work and legacy of a man that has impacted millions? I would love to be able to have our audience kind of enter your heart, enter your spirit, enter your mind, and get to know the perspective that Don Green has on his work. The floor is yours, Don.
Well, it's absolutely wonderful what I was allowed to do. When I started, we had 16 books at the end of 1999, and we've got about 160 today. So we've added a lot of books. We'll do about 10 books this year. And my job is, when I really read this stuff, I applied it to myself personally. And because I had big dreams, I started off making $1.15 an hour. But I was reading those books, and man, I was making notes. I knew exactly where I was going, and made a plan to get there. It took me a little while. I was 41 before I made bank president, but not a lot of people reach that status. But mine, after I got the job, is I look at my job not just as an application of it. That's the first benefit of the material, is you learn the material and you apply it. The word action is in Think and Grow Rich 77 times. You read the book, and if you don't do anything with it other than read it and getting a credit in college or ever what, You know, you read a novel and you find out the uncle died and left a young man money, or if the boy got the girl, or you know what happened. You have to read the last few pages. But the difference in reading a book like Napoleon Hill and stuff that Rex is talking about, we can write our own ending. We can take what we learn and apply it, and we don't have to read the end to see what happens. We can plan it and do it as we go along, and that's the difference. It's a useful tool, provided you use it rather than just read it. And he lays it out. He'll never give anything without telling the how. And on the second chapter of Think and Grow Rich Under Desire, he asks the question, "What do you want?" And he gives you the steps. You know, the purpose and the plans and persistence and so forth. You know, and I just published a little book on self-confidence. He wrote in 1930. He wrote for the New York Post. He had big articles on how to develop self-confidence, and which I think is timely needed in these days. But Rex and Mo, but going beyond the first stage is plan it and doing for your own self. But then the second stage is teach it to others. Teach it to others. No, you can expand your influence. It can influence you greatly. That's first. You know, I saw an old bumper sticker the other day. It says, if you want to help poor people, just make sure you're not one of them. It starts with us internally inside. What we are on the outside, we know is just a reflection of what we're on the inside. So we learn material and we apply it and we benefit. But the next thing is we teach it to others. And so we can enlarge our community, our school, or the people we mentor, what have you. And then there's even one step beyond that. If you get to knowing the material and really, really knowing it, you can teach others how they can teach others. And you'll simply expand your sphere of influence. When I started, we was doing business in Japan. That was the only foreign country. And the reason we had Japan, Mr. Tanaka, he had read the material somewhere or another, and he came over and met them, and they licensed him material. And he's been with us, and he's still alive. He's way up in his 80s. They've been with us 46 or 47 years, and they've done tremendously. I've been over there 3 times, and they do it a little bit different today. Instead of them teaching them one-on-one, they primarily concentrate on going to, in other words, they would go to the Los Angeles Tribune and teach your employees rather than one at a time. They would teach a group, and they've done remarkably well. And I said I've been over 3 times. They're the most gracious people on earth. It's just they've come to visit us several times, and they treat us. Nobody could give you better hospitality. I remember being over 2 weeks, and they've had film crews traveling with us, and they had film crew, and then they had guys taking pictures. And on the last night, I don't know, it's up 20, 30 stories high. They had dinner for us, and they showed them during the meal. They showed them pictures, and when they started it, I'm sitting between Mr. Tanaka and his wife, and they started the music of Elvis. I can't help but falling in love with you. They played that to us with showing the films, and she said to me, she said, "Mr. Green, we love Elvis." And I said, "Yeah, we like him pretty good in the States also." They had a bunch of Elvis impersonators, but the influence, I get excited. I don't know what it does to some people, but I remember here one day getting a couple books from Macedonia. Well, Macedonia, it's the oldest country in the world, I'm told, with its original name. But then if we study the student of the Bible, in Corinthians, Paul left after Christ was crucified, and it says he was called to go to Macedonia. So here I get that book from this little landlocked country, and they sent us 2 copies. And then one day I was had contacted by some people from Armenia. They were actually in California, and I told them, I said, "Gosh, that's something. I'm gonna be at where you are. I'm gonna be out there in a month or something." "Oh, would you come by and see us?" I said, "We'll feed you." But they were a couple youngsters had left Armenia during they had a I seen Biden just made some statement about it. They had genocide from the Turks or from somebody.
Right.
They about got wiped out. I believe there's 1 million of them. But and these people, they wanted to use our quotes on their plates, and we allowed them to use them. And so we went to their place. They had an organic pizza place, and it was unlike ones that I've seen where they serve you in a pasteboard box. You just pick out what you want, different items. It's all organic, and then they bring it to you on this big old china plate, and it's got a Napoleon Hill quote on it.
Wow. And so it's incredible, Don, how the work is global.
Yeah, it is. We have over 500 foreign publishers, and I have a trustee who's retired military man. He's now a doctor. He had adopted 2 Russian kids, and actually adopted one of them. They went to get it, and they had a if you got the little girl, said he had a brother there, and so he wouldn't leave. We took them both, and there's actually an orphanage over there, and they're not necessarily all orphanages in Russia, but it's run by United States doctors. In other words, these kids are the health issues and so forth and all. They know pretty well because they've been there and they've monitored them. But he asked me one day on the phone. He said, and JB's now a doctor. He served 23 years or something in the Marines, but he went to medical school. Now he's a doctor, and he loves his grandfather and can tell you tale after tale. But he just asked me, how many publishers in Russia? I said, well, I can get the same assistant to count them for you. And I think at the time we had 25, but I'm sure we've added several more since then, different publishers in one country. And we've probably got 30 or 35 different publishers in China.
Wow.
And we deal in those little bitty countries that we never heard tell of when we was in school. Well, of course, a lot of them didn't exist, like Slovenia, Slovakia, Ukraine, Belarus, so forth, that broke off from Russia. In fact, I'm working with one in Ukraine today, this afternoon. I didn't get it finished. But we get some inquiries every single day from some of the foreign countries, won't know if this is available, if that's available, and so forth, or want to review a PDF file of particular books. And oftentimes we'll do a package deal. Maybe, well, I did one. I signed. I guess it's Monday. It was 9 books to one publisher.
Truly remarkable. The global impact that you're making is truly remarkable. And speaking of folks that are making a global impact, I want to welcome one of our celebrity guests in the virtual auditorium, Ori Spado. Ori Spado himself is an international author, and he's a celebrity, very well-known gentleman. And he's leaving us comments live right now, asking us how we're all doing. And he just shared this video to his global audience. So we want to thank you, Ori Spado. Rex, I'm curious what you have to say about what Don Green just shared. But before we do that, we do want to read one comment that one of our celebrity guests, Ori Spado, just left. He said, I first read Think and Grow Rich under W. Clement Stone in 1972. This is the greatest self-help book, but you need to follow the principles in it. I have given over 100 to others, including a well-known actress, as she carries it with her every day. Ori Spado, of course, the author of the best-selling book, The Accidental Gangster. And I'm curious, when you hear comments like that, first of all, let's see what Rex has to say about what Don just shared. And then I'd love to hear Don's thoughts on that live comment that we just got from a celebrity guest. Rex, please, the floor is yours.
Well, I think, how cool is it to have 520 different publishers worldwide to carry on your work, or to have 50 in one country, or 25 or 30. Don said he just did a deal with 9 books. The idea that the book came out 1937, right? And this book now we're 2021. We're not that far. We're about 16 years from 100 years ago that this book came out, and it is still affecting people's lives, and partly, in great part, because of Don's work as the head of the foundation in making sure that the book continues to be published, and other works of Napoleon Hill get published and put out there. But there's a desire, there's a demand, there's an interest. People know this, and it's been handed down from grandfather to granddad, to great-granddad, all the way down to son. I was at the beach one day with my dogs, and I turned and I looked, and here was this young guy, college-age guy, reading Think and Grow Rich, and I was like, whoa, you're reading Think and Grow Rich? He goes, yeah, my dad gave it to me. And I said, well, what do you think? He goes, oh, it's an awesome book. I just started, just a couple chapters in, but I really like it. I was like, how cool is that? So, Don is doing incredible work, and the world, of 8 billion people still finds the work relevant because it is relevant.
Absolutely. And I just read this comment that Ori Spado just left us about how he first read Think and Grow Rich under W. Clement Stone in 1972. And he mentioned that this is the greatest self-help book. He's given over 100 copies of this book to people. I mean, this is the kind of impact that this book has on the lives. Don, what is it about this book? And again, I'm going to hold the copy that you so graciously sent me officially from the Napoleon Hill Foundation, from Don Green himself. I want to thank you again for sending me this gift. But what is it about this book that people just want to share? We just had Ori talk about how over the course of his life, he's given away 100 copies. What is it about this book that has that it factor, that magic, that secret sauce, that people read it and they're like, oh my God, I just have to share this with people? What is it, Don?
Well, start off with, I've read everything Hill wrote over and over and over, but I also tried to read everything that he read. If he referred to John Dewey, wrote a book on how to think. Of course, he read Orson Swett Martin, who wrote Pushing to the Front, Every Man a King, Character, Iron Will, and so forth and so on. And then the first one I say is, now maybe some people say otherwise, but there was a book in 1859 by a British, Samuel Smiles. He wrote a book called Self-Help Psychology, and it's in English, Old English, and it doesn't read that well. But he told stories of perseverance. Let's see. One of them was Isaac Watts, I believe, the steam engine. He wrote stories of people that like Wedgwood. The British use of China. It's been around a long, long time. I think the guy took 20, 30 years to perfect. His name was Wedgwood, and China's named after him. And people that persisted. But the difference in Hill was he didn't just sit down and write stories. He actually went and interviewed those people in person and put it together. And I think that made all the difference in it. I think that made all the difference in the world, that he printed, wrote, and published, and people were hungry for it. I mean, during the Depression, when he wrote, published Think and Grow Rich, it was $2.50 a copy. That was a lot of money. And this was without social media and so forth and so on. But he printed 5,000 copies and it sold out in 6 weeks. And then they printed 10,000 copies, and a couple 3 months it sold out again. And then they printed 20,000. So it was 35,000 copies printed in 3 printings the first year. And I mean, at $2.50 a copy. And people today, I just love the stories. I read a lot. I read 3 or 4 books a week. I actually read more than that, but at least at minimum. And I can name a list a mile long. But I tell you one I think is funny is Billy Ray Cyrus, a musician. He's born not far from here. We're close to the Kentucky line. He's born in a little place called Louisiana. I've been through it. They don't have a red light. But he was going to college, Western Kentucky, I believe, on a baseball scholarship, and he got kicked out of school. His book is Hillbilly Heart. Of course, he's a hillbilly from the mountains, and he tells in there he got thrown out of school, had a lady president. He had a bunch of dogs in his room, and evidently they didn't like that. He was going to school on a baseball scholarship, and he actually wanted to make it in pros. But he said he was in his car one day, and his car broke down, and he stopped. And the man was an older gentleman. His name was, all he tells his name was Dr. Bailey. And Bailey told him, son said, I'm surprised. I wasn't expecting a young person to stop and help an old man out. He said, well, it looked like your car was broke down. And so he helped him. And the man gave him his card and said, stop by my office, said, I have something for you. And he stopped by his office. I said his name was Dr. Bailey, and he gave him Think and Grow Rich, and he told him to read it. Billy Ray said he read the book, and if you read the book, Hillbilly Heart's the name of it. He said it was like a voice spoke to him and said, Billy Ray, get you a guitar and start you a band. One chapter in his book is on persistence. He said they got a band together and they get $50, maybe sometimes $100, play anywhere they'd have them. He said rough places, or we call them beer joints down here. And he said sometimes there's fights and throwing beer bottles. But we know he wrote one chapter on persistence, the necessity to stick with it. And he said he stuck with it, and he comes out with that little song that the girls like to dance by, Achy Breaky Heart. And of course, as they say, the rest of his history, he's made millions and millions. And you can also find out about his little girl. He called her Smiley, and he said she'd ride around with him singing top of her voice. And of course, she went in show business, and they dropped the S off of her nickname, Smiley, and made Miley. So that's how we get Miley Cyrus.
Wow.
And he said
I have heard, Don, that actually Michael Jordan read Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the story on that. Mr. Stone gave him the book, and then when he was associated with when he was Kobe Bryant. Kobe was a young man come up. He didn't even play college. He went from high school to pros and said he's going to be the best pro basketball player of all time. And Kobe was, in fact, I wrote an article on Kobe when he got killed. He was given the book by Michael Jackson, and all people. And Michael Jackson was given the book by Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone had a dinner for him one time at his home. I wasn't involved. I wasn't on the board at the time, but so many people have affected so many other people. I mean, you can look on YouTube, and I guess one of the bigger names out there in the religious field is Stanley, and on every Sunday morning, and he says he reads it once a year, and he's on YouTube talking about it. And we know that Billy Graham, Jim Stovall, our friend, said that the last time he talked to him, he said he asked him what he'd been reading. He said, well, I go back and read Think and Grow Rich. He said, especially that chapter on going the extra mile. And so they are so unbelievably number of people that we keep hearing from that's read the book, and it's just amazing at the people that's read the book and been deeply helped by the book, and Rex, and that people that are successful, they're the most giving people on earth for helping other people. I remember the chancellor at the college. He was on my bank board, and of course he was chancellor, and I was on the board here. And he told me one day we go to board meetings sometimes out of town. He didn't like to fly. One of our trustees had a plane, and so it'd be a 2 or 3 hour drive. We'd talk, and he said, "Hey, Donna, if you ever really need to get something done, just get your person that's real busy." And he said they'll get it done. And but the people that's read the book it's just simply amazing. And one of my mentors I had in school, I ran across him after I got married, and my wife and I was at a cafeteria, and he said, Don, I was reading the paper, I see you connect with Napoleon Hill. He said, I've probably not told you about the time he spoke to our graduation class. And so I couldn't wait to get all this written down. And he said that he spoke in, I think it was 33. And I said, I had the nerve enough to ask him. I said, do you know what he talked about? He said, I sure do. He said he talked about our thought process, how important it was that all of our results start off as a thought in our mind. And he said, he remembered the principal said, boy, wasn't he an elegant speaker. And so I kept up with Mr. Gillum after he retired, and I was out of town somewhere or another. And I come back, and I had a message. My wife gave me a message, and Mr. Gillum had passed away, and his two boys were in the coal business, and they sold out for a little over $1 billion. And
wow, that's not bad.
They're not personal friends, but he said they left a message, said we would like for Mr. Gillum, you come be pallbearer, which I considered it an honor to go serve as a pallbearer, because this guy was a major in World War II, and it served with Patton. And he really had the war stories. And as a boy in school, we loved to hear them stories. And but the people that's influenced, right? I can tell you the guy that's probably the smartest person ever around. I won't tell you his name, but he's a private person. But he hired me in the banking business, and it was June 1975, and I go, we've been 34 years old. I got a call from him, and he said he'd organized the bank. In 1 year, it was in trouble. And they examined them. They issued what they call cease and desist orders. That means you can't make no more. They put you on all these restrictions. You can't open no branches. You can't do this. You can't do that till you get some. And they said they were lacking in depth and management, didn't have a credit department that was functioning and so forth. And so I went over and came over. I was about an hour away from here then working, managing the finance office. And Jim told me, he said, Don, you do a little extra one day. And of course, now he had read the book. He said, you do a little extra one day? He said, it won't matter. You do it for a week. He said, probably nobody notices it. But he said, I'm telling you, Don, you do a little more than all the other people around you. He said, one of these days, you're going to be the success the world just dreams about. And he's a mentor today. When we talk, it's of a night from home because he's busy. He's got plants in Atlanta and in Fort Worth and over here in Virginia, and does business all over the world. An absolute genius. And he's an avid reader, just like our copyright attorney who worked with Bill Gates, his father, for 33 years, and they're still our legal firm. Avid reader.
Amazing.
And just like Mr. Stone.
Right.
Everybody come to Mr. Stone's office, they got a book. They got Think and Grow Rich or My Shadow Ran Faster or something other. He had been affected. And the one, The Shadow Man Fast, I got a whole box of them. It's been signed by Bill Sands. Now he's a tremendous story. He read our books while serving a life term in prison, and the governor of Arkansas pardoned him for the work he had done. And then one of the last acts Reagan did, he gave him his voting things right. But he was a young man, 20 years old, serving a life term in prison for armed robbery involved in drugs. His dad was a federal judge, and he was an only child. In fact, his dad died while he was in prison, shortly after he went to prison. But wow. The books affected so many people. Kobe Bryant came here and Corey Blount came here and spoke. And Corey Blount played in the NBA 14 years. He played with Michael Jordan, and then they traded him to LA. Then he was on the team when they brought Kobe Bryant up. And he played 14 years. And he went to prison just shortly after getting out for drugs. And of course, he got in touch with me and what have you. I checked him out, and our attorney did, and he was going around making speeches and so forth and so on. And I let him come here and speak to the kids. He's 6'11", wears a 22 and a half pair of shoes. In fact, he brought me a pair. And he said he never read no books when he was in college.
Wow.
I said,
wow.
What do you mean? He said, Don, you ain't gonna let a star basketball player. I'm 6'11", playing center on the college basketball team. He said they made me up the test, and I spent a little bit of time at it and said it was a breeze, but I didn't have to read the books.
Rex, when you hear these stories, because I can tell by your body language, Rex, you really want to chime in right now. I can just tell. What is it about what Don is saying that's resonating with you so much? Because we have limited time, but I do want you to be able to also share, because I can tell by your body language that something that Don said struck a chord with you.
Well, I just think all these people that Don has mentioned who's read Think and Grow Rich, who are famous people and who have reached high pinnacles of success, whether it's Billy Ray Cyrus or Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or whoever it is, begs the question of, if you haven't read it yet, how come? Who's ever watching and listening, if they haven't read Think and Grow Rich or The Laws of Success or Outwitting the Devil or any of Napoleon Hill's works yet, why not? Now's the time to do it. Or if you haven't read My Mentor yet by Don Green, it's time to do it, because this work is transforming people's lives, and it's beyond me when you run into somebody who goes, "Nah, I don't read," or "I don't do this," or "Yeah, it's on my shelf, but I haven't cracked it open yet." Because you crack it open and you do what Don said and you apply it. What Don said earlier, by the way, very early on in this conversation, Don said, I was a bank president, and I knew very early, where I was going, and I made a plan to do it. That is the kind of statement that's in the book that could be lost on you. But the point is that Don goes, Napoleon Hill says, know what you want. And he goes, I know what I wanted. I know where I was going. And then I had a plan to do it. So it's about applying the principles as Napoleon Hill had written them down, and then using them in your daily life. And I just, when I hear Don tell stories about all the different people whose lives have been transformed as a result. Also, what should be lost, as Don said, this gentleman who's still alive calls him, he's a busy man, is a mentor. And Don here is a mentor to many, and yet Don said this man is a mentor to Don. So, I mean, you walk the talk, and Don definitely walks the talk. So with that, I'm always thrilled whenever I have the chance to talk or listen to Don.
How important is the work that Don Green does on a day out basis in preserving the legacy of the work of Napoleon Hill? Rex, that's a question for you.
Well, I think when you say that there's 160 some odd books, and he started with 16, I think that day in and day out, the work that Don does is very, very important work. It's tantamount to we wouldn't have it if Don wasn't doing it. So think about that. We are the benefactors of Don's efforts and what Don does on a daily basis to get Napoleon's work out to the rest of the world, and in all these different languages and in all these different countries. So Don is helping people transform their lives all around the planet. I think it's very important.
Incredible. And Don, if someone's watching and they want to help the Napoleon Hill Foundation, they want to contribute, they want to assist in the mission and vision of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, what is the best way for the folks watching to be able to do that?
Well, our website's naphill.org. That's naphill.org. I mean, take the course, buy our books. They're all over Amazon and bookstores and what have you, or to tell other people. It's just such important material. I mean, I get thrilled, and I'll tell you the advantages of reading. I was reading a book by Jim Stovall. I don't know where you know him, Rod. He's got a tremendous free letter he puts, which is Jim Stovall's Wisdom for Winners. You talk about a story. He went blind in college. He would have played professional football, and he's got a good sense of humor. He's written 50-some books. I published 4 of them. I've done one with him, and he's written another one that will come out in August. It's testimonies from 70-some different people, including people like Sharon Lecter. But Jim went blind, and he was mentored by a guy by the name of Lee Braxton. And when I read that book, I just picked up the phone and called him. I said, Mr. Stovall, you talked about being mentored by Lee Braxton. Did you know that he delivered the eulogy of Napoleon Hill? He said, no, I didn't know that. I said, yeah, he really was. And his connection was when he was going blind, his dad was an employee of Oral Roberts University. Jim was going blind while he was going to school. He went ahead and got into weightlifting. He was a heavyweight U.S. Olympic champion twice. Big old guy, still is. But he never played football. He said there were some blind referees, but no blind players. But he said he used to ask people if they're successful, if they'd ever read Think and Grow Rich. He said he don't do that no more. He said if they're successful, he asks them when the first time they read it. And so we hear it all the time, over and over and over, that people do. And Jim, was he an outstanding person? He was one of the 10 most outstanding people internationally. Was the same year that Mother Teresa was picked. He was one of the other 9. Can't remember who the other ones were, but not have been Reagan. But anyway, Mother Teresa was one, and Jim Stovall was one. He founded a narrative for People's Empowered, got Empowered Vision with Ted Turner, and they reach about 15 million people. He's written, his books have been made into 8 movies. The last one was that really did $100 million was The Ultimate Gift, and that was James Garner. We used to see on TV and in program. That was the last movie James Garner made, was The Ultimate Gift. So here's a man, he should be on welfare, but a guy that had read Think and Grow Rich, truly successful, was able to retire. Lee Braxton retired. He was 48. He dropped out of school in about the 6th grade to help his family during the Depression. But he went into several different businesses, and he was able to sell it out. When he even founded a bank in Whitesville, North Carolina, and he was able to retire at the age of 48. he spent the rest of his life promoting and growing Oral Roberts University because he was a very religious man. But gosh, just and I know there's millions of people that's been influenced by the book that we don't know nothing about, but and we hear of them all the time, and it keeps growing. Of course, I get a question like says, "Well, that book was written in '37. Would that stuff apply today?" I said, "Well, imagine you go visit your grandpa's farm, and he's got this big old barn about 100 feet up in the air, and you're up in the loft, and you jump out. You'll be affected by what we call the law of gravity. You're either going to get killed or seriously injured." I said, "Principles of success, they don't change. They take their thing going the extra mile." He says Carnegie did it, but also it's even in the Bible when the Jewish people complained about the Roman soldiers making them be beasts of burdens and be their pack horses, carry their stuff. So you think when they complained, they would get some sympathy. And when the answer they got, when a man asked you to go a mile, go twain, TWAIN. And of course, I'd say 99% of people read out the Bible don't know it means twice. In other words, do more than's required. And that's how you get ahead in life. One of the principles I said is going the extra mile. And I said, I always think of it as go the extra mile and then some.
Amazing.
And I'll assure you, you'll pay rewards. And I did it in the businesses. I ran a dry cleaner when I was president of the bank because I had 30 some suits. I didn't like the way they done them. And I told one of my buddies, I said, on that land we got, I said, I'd like to build a dry cleaner. Go ahead. I didn't know nothing about it. I ordered a kit from Inc. magazine. I was a bank president. I needed about like I need a hole in the head. But it was so easy to do. The kit was $39.95. And I read that thing, and it seemed like some things that new dry cleaners was doing was putting a drive-in in, so women don't have to get their kids out of the car and so forth, and one-day service and so forth. And we put a sign up, and it said "The Cleaners." That's all. We never give a coupon. We never advertised. We never did except word of mouth. And because I would go by on Saturday and I learned things. I hired a lady from the other cleaners, but I had to have people come in and train her. She wasn't used to doing it. And I was there one day, and the lady says she had a funeral, and said, "When can we get these back?" And she said, "This afternoon," and which was the right thing. And after she left, I said, "Juanita, when that lady comes back, don't charge her." She said, "I don't even."
That's great.
And said, "Are we gonna go broke?"
That's a beautiful story.
I said, "Dawn's not going broke, believe me." And I said, "We'll give them a good chance to be one." And
wow.
I said, "Don't you worry about the money." I said, "My buddy and I, we got money."
Yep.
And one day I was there one evening, was open till 7. They some little girls' school had started to fall, and they was giggling in there, 5 or 6 of them. They brought their band uniforms in, and I know at that time they had way more than 100 band members. I told them little girls, "We're not going to charge y'all to clean them, and tell them other kids we'll clean theirs for them too."
That's a funny story.
And we're going to go broke. We're going to broke.
Wow.
I said, "We are not going to go broke."
This is incredible.
It worked. I mean, and we charge more than everybody else did too, but we give superior service.
And what's incredible, Don, is as we slowly wrap up with today's program here in the last 5 to 10 minutes, we just got another comment from one of our celebrity guests that's watching this live, of course, Ori Spado, and he just wrote a comment saying, "I'm going to be talking to students at the Los Angeles Charter School, and I'm going to be giving the students Think and Grow Rich. In my opinion, it should be in all schools." So thank you, Ori, for doing that and helping preserve the legacy. And we're almost done with today's program, but I want to have Rex chime in before we close out here in the next 5 minutes or so. Rex, please, and then we'll give Don closing thoughts. Rex.
I'm outside, if you can't tell, and they just started like chopping down a tree or something, so I don't want to. But oddly enough, talk about a small world. Do you know The Ultimate Gift is directed by a very, 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 very good dear friend of mine, Michael Seibel, and he's a wonderful director. He doesn't live far from me. We're both Hollywoodites, but we both live in the Midwest a large part of the time. and he's just a wonderful gentleman. So it's a very small world when you talk about Jim Stovall's work, The Ultimate Gift. What I wanted to kind of ask as we wrap up is that there's Think and Grow Rich, but before Think and Grow Rich, there was The Law of Success, which is kind of a deep dive, I think, by comparison to Think and Grow Rich. And then there's Outwitting the Devil, which just now was re-released. And if you could, Don, would you kind of give our viewers, the watchers, the audience, the difference between the books, like how they connect to each other, and where Think and Grow Rich fits between these books or with these books?
Well, Law of Success is over 1,000 pages, and I've read it, and I'm sure other people read it too. But it was one that was not edited by the publisher. It was printed as it is. It's not that I won't get in trouble by saying it, but it doesn't cover the meaning of Think and Grow Rich does. He listed the principles and so forth, but the trustees and I worked on this book right here. We just published it. It's called A Law of Success. It's published by Sound Wisdom, and and the comments have been really good on it. It's just come out, and it's only 247 pages, where the others 1,000. But it's got all the material in it. It really covers Law of Success. It really covers Law of Success. But Think and Grow Rich is one that's had to really got to people, because he wrote it for people. A lot of people think it's not written about money, but the original copy, which we published, I went back to his personal copy. It's exactly word for word. The original copy had up the top, "For men and women who resent poverty." Publisher later took it off and put 2.5 million copies sold, 5 million copies sold, 10 million copies sold. So I thought, hey, why don't we go back to the original book? We got his original book and do it word for word. It's word for word. And because when people say it's not about money, it's during the Depression. In the book, he says he wrote it for the millions of men and women who were living in poverty and in fear of poverty. So he did have that in mind when he wrote the book. And you asked about Law of Success. About Outwitting the Devil. I had that for a long time, and the trustees wouldn't let me publish it. They didn't understand it, and even told me, "Well, I assure y'all wouldn't use devil in the title." But Outwitting the Devil, we're our own man. We make our own devil, And he wrote the book in 1938. And I had the manuscript as part of the archives, but the chairman said, "Don, them women did not want that book published." Now, the women was Napoleon Hill's wife and Charlie's wife, which one of them was Ellen's aunt. They were related. But they had both died. And I bring it up every once in a while. I said, "Charlie, we can make some money off that book." He said, "Now, Donald, them women didn't want that published." Now, it's one of these times you say something before you think. I said, "Hell, Charlie, them women are dead." Of course, one of them was his wife, and had to kind of apologize. He said, "Well, you're going to do it. Go ahead." I said, "No, Charlie, I'm just telling you, I'll make some money off of it. I'm telling you, it'll sell 1 million copies. Go ahead." So I published it, and I don't know, it come out, and of course, all the papers picked up the story. It was story. The interview was in 200 some papers. That's another story of how it hit all the newspapers when it was released. And Charlie, one day, my assistant comes back and says, "Don said Charlie's wanting to speak to you." So I come to the phone, and Charlie says, "Donald, what are you doing?" I said, "Staying busy. What can I do for you?" He said, "Well, I'm going to be speaking to 50-some cardiologists." Now, Charlie, that's what he is. He was a cardiologist, lived to be 85. He said, "I'm going to speak to about 50-some cardiologists." Said, "Would you send me a box of them books and I can give all of them a copy of it?" And I said, "Charlie, I'll be more than glad to." I sent him a box. And then I told the people in the office, I said, "Boy, that's for years you wouldn't let me publish it. Now he wants 50 free copies." But was kind of funny. And the reason we redid it, Sharon Lecter edited the first one, and we left out one chapter and it's with her comments, and it had Mark Victor Hansen, Reverend Michael Beckwith, and a couple of people endorsed it. And I said, "Why don't we? It's 10 years old and it's still a bestseller. Why don't we publish a book exactly like it was. We don't do nothing with it. If they want to read it that way, because I had people call and offer to pay me to come in the office and just sit in the back room and read the original manuscript. So we publish it. It's in a nice hardback book, and it will do well. And I said we put the chapter in it that was removed to kind of thought we could do it and cut down the size of it, but we printed it without any annotations, without any comments, and it's just like it was printed. And we got the original manuscript here in the office in the archives.
That's fantastic, Don. I also want to say that we have somebody in the audience watching you, Jane Noland, who wrote the foreword for one of the Think and Grow Rich editions, and he says it's great to see you again. We've got Dr. Natalie Forrest, who is with the Los Angeles Tribune, who's like thrilled that you're here today. So, but definitely wanted to pass along the hello from Jay.
Well, I appreciate that. I said besides getting enjoying what I'm doing, there's two tremendous benefits. First off is we help a lot of people, scholarships for the kids, a lot of people, and then I meet people that like you guys, that the friendship will last for a lifetime. So I really got a lot of benefits of the position I've been fortunate enough to have all these years, because I would never have met those people otherwise. And so the acquaintance and the people we've got to is just been quite amazing. And every day is exciting. I mean, I wake up for morning, and excited. I don't cut the TV on because I look at the weather on my phone to see what kind of coat I need to wear. But why you want to start off with a bunch of negative things? I've got a bunch of things lined up, and I know I'm going to do. I'm working on a deal in Ukraine or in Turkey or China or whatever, and I got a package to put together now for the China Book Fair. A lady over there does our stuff, and wanted to. I think I was sending her 11 books for a display at the fair. And anything we come out with, those countries will publish it. That's just quite amazing. And the foreign fairs, we do them for 5 years, and we know where they're selling or not, because they want to renew the thing. So that way, if we're not getting adequate royalties, or think we are, well, we don't have to renew it.
What a true delight, privilege, and pleasure it's been for us to be able to spend some time here with Don Green and Rex Sikes as we wrap up this week's program, or today's program rather, here at the Leadership Series. And we just want to say at the Los Angeles Tribune, we thank you for the work that you're doing with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. We honor you. We believe that you yourself are truly a living legend, Don, and anything that we can do to help preserve not only the legacy of Napoleon Hill, but the legacy of Don Green, which I believe goes hand in hand, we will continue to do, because in my humble opinion, if there was no Don Green, the legacy and power and impact of Napoleon Hill would not be what it is today. And that's my opinion. And with that, I want to give the floor to Rex Sikes for his final thoughts, and then we're going to ask Don to give his final thoughts as well. I'm going to ask the two of you gentlemen to please be brief, because we are going to end the show in 5 minutes. So Rex, please, starting with you, your absolute closing thoughts.
Well, I'm just thrilled and privileged to know Don, and to, like I said, he's a very generous man and a giving man, and he's preserved the legacy of Napoleon Hill. And as you pointed out, he also has his own legacy, and to be party to that, to know you, Don, and to be able to talk to you and to be able to help share your wisdom with the world is indeed a treat. Jay Noland, again, posted something just a moment ago. I know you can't see it right now, but you'll see it later. It says, Don Green is a great man. Thank you for keeping Dr. Napoleon Hill's legacy alive and strong. And Dr. Natalie Forrest also has comments that you'll see if you get to watch the recorded show. Legacy keeper and legacy maker, Don Green. Thank you. So, Don, I'm so glad that you're here and with us today. And I know that other people are as well. I've just read the quotes of two of them, and Mo and us have all been touched and affected by you and Dr. Hill's work. So thank you kindly. And with that,
we want to remind everybody watching to please support the Napoleon Hill Foundation and read this incredible book, My Mentor, by Don Green. And again, I want to thank Don for sending me this personalized card. It was very thoughtful of you to do so. I sincerely appreciate that. And with that, Don, I want to give you the floor for you to share your final thoughts on what you would like to share with our audience, and just some general words of wisdom before we close out today's episode.
Well, there's so many stories. Some of them I've written about in books. I guess one of the major ones is getting a call one day from Nigeria, and I'm on the board of University of Virginia, and my assistant said, "Be careful." Said we get a lot of stuff comes over the internet from Nigeria, a lot of criminal activities and so forth. And I said, "Well, I can't talk to him right now anyway. We gave him a cell phone because I'm going to be leaving here in a few minutes and going to walk." And I got this phone call, and he still calls me Mr. Don. And he said, "You listen to my story." And he told me he was in Nigeria. I said, "Yeah, I'm walking. I'll listen to your story." And he said when he was 14, he read he read Success of Positive Mental Attitude. And he started off selling sandals on the streets, and then he went to used clothes, and then he got a little money and went to Hong Kong and bought men's clothes. And then he was offered a job in a drug prison. But during the conversation, I told him, I said, his name's Chief Polly. I said, "Polly, Mr. Stone wrote a couple of his own books. Do you know that?" "No, I didn't know that." I said, "I'll tell you what." I said, "I've got a pencil and paper here, but Nigeria is a long address. You send me an email to the office, and I'll send you them 2 books." And I did. I sent him them 2 books the next morning by FedEx, probably $100. I don't remember. And more or less forgot it. I thought I did a good deed. And it was a few weeks. He calls back and says, "Hey, Mr. Don," said, "I've been in Laos and North Vietnam and North Korea." And he named all these communist countries. And of course, he sells malaria drugs, largest distributor in the world. And he said, "I got them books. You said you was going to send them." I said, "Paul, it's the way I was raised. My mom said, if you tell somebody you're going to do something, you be sure you do it. I told you I'd send you them 2 books." And I said, "I sent you them 2 books. He said, "I want to wire you some money." I said, "Now, Paulie, we're a nonprofit. We don't ask people for money, but if you send it, we'll accept it." He said, "I'm going to wire you $100,000. He wired me $100,000, and by then I got his phone number, and I called him, thank him, and I said, "Polly, do you ever come to the United States?" "Oh, yeah." He said, "I got a daughter that's an attorney that works for Verizon in Maryland." And I said, and he said, "I visit her." I said, "Well, you have to come visit me, and I'll show you around through the offices." And of course, he referred to Napoleon Hill as a prophet. And he said, "When I do, I'll bring you another $150,000. And he said, "That will make $250,000 he'd give me." And he's visited me every year except 2. One, he couldn't get a visa renewed. They was having trouble in Nigeria. And then one year, last year was a pandemic, but he would come to the book fairs in New York or where I was at when we found out we had book fairs and in the booth. And he always shows up. He always gives me another $10,000. So he's given me that's over $300,000. It's kind of funny. He'd say, "Now this is for you. You help me out. This is for you." And of course, I couldn't keep the money. I'd give it to the assistants and put it in the foundation's thing. But so we never know. I don't expect we send somebody a book, but I think they have a chance to do a kind deed. If nothing else, tell somebody about it or whatever. If they do, that's fine. If they don't, I did my part. If they tell somebody about our courses or about our books or what benefit it's done to them, that's good. That's fine. But I just think that's what we're supposed to do.
Amazing.
Because this is what I'll sign off with. This is the last thing. If any of you guys out there are listening, it took me a long time. If you can find out any way to become happy other than making somebody else happy, I'd like to know what it is. A new Mercedes don't do it. A $35,000 gold Rolex don't do it. But what I've read and what I've learned in life was, if I want to be happy, all I got to do is find somebody out there I can help.
Wow.
And that will do it.
Wow. That is so profound.
As long as we concentrate on ourselves, we're going to be miserable, because somebody's always got more, unless you're Bill Gates and don't look like he's doing too good here lately. But somebody's always got more. So as long as we're concentrating on ourselves, we're supposed to encourage one another. That's all we're here for. And when we all get that notion, the world will be a whole lot better off.
Amazing. That was a powerful gem of wisdom that we got from Don Green. And if you got nothing else from this hour that we have all spent together, I want you to tattoo that on your mind. Make other people happy, because truly we're here for each other. And, I appreciate you again, Don Green. I appreciate you, Rex Sikes. And with that, this has been a proud presentation of the Los Angeles Tribune. Please go ahead and remember to get these two books, Life on Your Terms and Think and Grow Rich, because these two books going hand in hand will give you so many powerful tools to live the life that you desire and deserve. And with that, my name is Mo Rock. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, the best is yet to come.